Hello everyone, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Apologies if there's background noise in this video. It's basically blizzarding outside as I'm filming this and the noise of the wind is insane. And apologies for the lighting in this video. It's all over, everything was all over the place. So many trials getting these cards made and video done. So I am using some new as well as some previously released waffle flower stamps and dies. And for my first couple cards, I'm using the new Holiday Thanks stamp set that has the big bear image. I love all these stamps with this big bear. I think they're so cute. This one is huge. The stamp alone is, I think, like 6 inches wide. It technically doesn't fit in my travel platform because there's those ridges along the outer edges of the lid, and the stamp actually kind of goes past that. But I was able to stamp it anyway, just because I was too lazy to get out my larger platform or my larger Misty. So I stamped the bear with VersaFine ONYX black ink onto some Distress watercolor paper onto the smooth side of it. And I'd used my anti-static powder tool first, stamped the image with the ink, and then I coated it with clear embossing powder, which you don't have to do. I just like doing this when I want to make my watercoloring go a lot quicker. Plus it gives it that little extra because, you know, you got the glossy raised edge. But this just makes my watercoloring faster because I don't have to worry about things bleeding into each other because that raised edge keeps the colors. So after I had melted all that embossing powder, I'm just using the Prima Classics little watercolor confections and just a little Tonic paintbrush that I'm dipping in water and really simple watercoloring. So I decided to do the bear gray, added a little bit of pink for his cheeks. And then the majority of the colors of this, I'm keeping very simple. I just went with kind of reds and greens because I'm doing a Christmas themed card since it's Christmas series time, all that fun stuff. But what I really loved about this stamp set is there are other sentiments, and you could totally make this for, like, you know, as if he's wrapping a birthday present. So this could be birthday themed as well. I think it's so cute. There's like thank you sentiments and that in it. And I love it. I think this is just the cutest little set. And I just love this little scene with him sitting and like wrapping this little gift. So I just went along and painted everything with these watercolors, keeping it, like I said, really simple, and just getting the color down was, you know, that was just my plan. So used a small brush and kept, since I was keeping 1 to 1 color palette, and I didn't really mix any of the colors either. So I did basically red, green. I added a little bit of that kind of turquoisey blue color. And then I've got, you know, a little bit of brown. I mixed the brown and yellow to kind of get that little bit of gold for the little lamp and the little alarm clock that's sitting there and a few other things just to, you know, pull in that color. So once I'm completely done coloring all of this, I'm going to set it aside and let it dry. And then for my card base, this is one of Simon Says Stamp's 120 pound base cards. I am sponging on the new Festive Berries Distress Oxide ink and using one of my Picket Fence Studio brushes. You could totally use just the Ranger blending tool for this, but I'm obsessed with these brushes, so I'm gonna keep using them. So I started at the top of the card where the fold is, and I'm just pulling the color down. And I super sped this up, but it still didn't take very long to blend on all this color. And I kind of added a good couple layers of that. And then I brought in a little bit of Candied Apple Distress Oxide just to deepen it a little bit and make it a little bit more red. And same thing, starting at the top and then just kind of pulling it down. And basically, like, as the color is being blended on and there's like next to nothing on the brush, it just pulls it down to get that nice fade. And then to clean my brushes, I just use a microfiber cloth. When I get a lot of ink, especially these oxide inks, I will wet the brush and I'll wipe it onto the microfiber cloth just to remove the excess ink. And I've so far been finding that that works just fine. And the next time I go to use it with a different color, they're just good to go. So by this point, my little watercolor scene is completely dry. So I'm using the coordinating wafer die to die cut this. And I say this all the time. I love dies like this because it doesn't just cut out the outline. It cuts out some of the center areas too, which just gives it that extra finished look. Like there's that big kind of center area under the desk there. So it pops that out. The area around the lamp cord, it pops that out. So I was like, yes, perfect. So I die cut that, and then off camera I ended up stamping. There's some little coordinating images in the set. And again, that's what I love about this set, because there's little birthday hat images that you can use. There's these little Santa hat images, so you can, depending on what occasion you're crafting for. So I used the Santa hats and then the little birdies with the little envelopes, and I had watercolored them the exact same way, die cut them, etc. And at this point, the card base is completely dry. I wanted to make sure it was dry before I do any heat embossing over it, but it was dry. I used my anti-static powder tool, and then I stamped the Merry Christmas sentiment from the set, and I'm just embossing that with some white embossing powder. So heat embossed that, and then to adhere all of these images, I'm just using Simon's Craft Tacky Glue and just adhering everything flat to the card. This is a very mailable card. There's no dimension. I didn't add any embellishments. I know, shocker. That's probably also why I made so many cards, because I was like, I'm keeping things more simple. So I'm going to make like a ton of cards for today. So I adhered all the little characters and their little Santa hats, and it's so cute. It's so cute. So after I got everything adhered to the front, to finish off the inside, I just decided to stamp the large main image again with the Festive Berries Distress Oxide ink. So I just lined it up in my stamp platform and stamped that, and that finished off the first card. So that was card number 1. Then I decided to do something a lot more simple. This is a card you could definitely mass produce. I just have some red cardstock here, also A2 size, top fold. And I lined up the large image as well as a sentiment all at the same time. And I used my anti-static powder tool. And this time I'm stamping them with clear embossing ink. And then I'm going to heat emboss these with gold embossing powder. And you technically could just leave it at that. I love how metallic embossing powder looks on color cardstock. Like, you could do a ton of these so quickly, because once you have them lined up in a stamp platform, you could just, if you needed to make 50 cards, you could make 50 cards. And do just different colors of cardstock. Use all the same embossing powder, but you could do, navy and red and green and etc. But I wanted to zhuzh it up just a little bit more. So I grabbed my blending brush again, and I started with Candied Apple Distress Oxide ink, and just gives it a little bit of, deepens it a little bit. Now, with oxides, because I'm using this on colored cardstock, you don't get as intense of the depth as you would with regular distress inks. So if I was to do these again, I would probably use regular distress inks on this style of card. I loved the oxide background on the first card, but for this one, I think I would have used regular distress inks, but I was just curious to see how they would work. So I'd started with Candied Apple, then I added some aged mahogany, and then I added just a bit of black soot at the very end, just to kind of deepen it a little bit more. Cleaned up my mess with all the ink everywhere. And then on the dry part of my microfiber cloth, I just rubbed that over the card base just to make sure to remove any of the ink from the heat embossing. So again, you could stop here. Totally fine. But I have to, I can't stop. I have to add a little bit more. So I grabbed my Wink of Stella, which I haven't used in forever, but it's still good to go. I grabbed my clear Wink of Stella, and I just went around and started adding it to like the gifts and the ribbon and just all sorts of random little places. And I purposely chose this one because it has a gold shimmer to it. And that plays so nicely with the red and the gold heat embossing. And it just gives this that extra little something without like any effort. So I just painted that on, and then I've got that nice, like, gorgeous, and it's super, super sparkly. Always impossible to catch on camera. I do turn the flashlight on my phone to kind of show it. You can see it a little bit more here at the end, but I did that, and then on the inside of this card, all I ended up doing was stamping that main image again, just with the clear embossing ink to do a tone-on-tone effect, and that one was done. So 2 completely different cards with the same stamp set, just really fun. I love how, the detail of that set, you totally can get away with just stamping it and heat embossing it, and it's still so adorable, or you can color it, whatever floats your boat. So, and you can do, like I said, Christmas, birthday, thank you, etc. So those were the first 2 cards. And then I wanted to pull out these sets that were released. I think these were last month's release, and I didn't get a chance. I showed them in a haul video, but then didn't get a chance to create with them, and I really wanted to. And I was totally inspired by a card Shannon had posted. Shannon's like on the Waffle Flower design team. And I'll have a direct link to her blog post in my blog post when I talk about these cards. So I'm using the YIPPEE stamp set from Waffle Flower, which is so cute. I love their little characters, all their little people. I don't know, they make me think of like children's books, even like the adult. Like I love the style. I think I raved about this when I showed this set. So I did the same thing. I stamped these in VersaFine ONYX Black and clear heat embossed them. And then I use the Prima Confections watercolor set to do all their little skin tones, giving them all different little skin tones, all different little hair colors. Again, really, really simple watercoloring. And I did this twice. For one set, I'm doing all their clothes in red and green. For a second set, I did the clothes just in rainbow colors. And I had stamped a little party hat from the set and ended up watercoloring those with rainbow colors. And I used the Prima Classic set for all of this. Really quick and simple, really easy watercoloring. I die cut all of these with their coordinating wafer dies. So for the Christmas theme of this card, or with these stamps, I have another Simon white card base, this time a top folding 4 1/4 by 5.5 card. So in the portrait mode rather than the landscape mode. And I'm using the Scattered Straw Distress Oxide ink that I just got my hands on and blending that onto my background, just starting in the center this time and like pulling the color out from the center. And again, wiping my brush off on my microfiber cloth. And then for like the centerpiece of the card, I'm using the pull tab tree wafer dies. So I'm going to show when I do the second tree how to put this together because I actually messed up on this one, but it still works. But I'm not going to show how I did it because I don't know, my brain just stopped, which is funny because I made the birthday one off camera and that was my first attempt and it turned out perfectly. And then this one, I just stopped thinking when I put it. It's actually, once you put it together, this is one of those ones where you look at it and I was like, what? But I watched Nina's video, Nina, the owner of Waffle Flower, and I will link to her video explaining this set and how it's all put together. So it's really simple. So you have this large base, which is your tree. And then there's a little like kind of accordion die there, the die cut, which is in the lower left. And then there's the pull tab, which is the white cardstock piece there on the lower right. And there's a little circle die and there's a little star die. So for this one, I die cut the base from green cardstock. And then I stamped this little star image from the Christmas tree stamp set. And after I had stamped the little star image onto that with a clear embossing ink, I used Ranger's Wendy Vecchi's Carnation Red embossing powder. So just heat emboss that onto my tree base. And I don't think you can see it in the video, but this large die also presses in score lines into everything. So you can see where you're going to have to fold everything. But I want to do my stamping and sponging before I folded everything. So after I had done my heat embossing, I took Mowed Lawn and Pine Needles Distress Oxide inks, and I'm using a smaller brush, but if I was to do this again, I'd either use a blending tool or just a larger blending brush. And I started with the Mowed Lawn Distress Oxide ink, and I'm starting from the score lines and just kind of pulling it into and onto the tree. I wanted the center area to be a little lighter. So after I did the Mowed Lawn, I'm adding the Pine Needles, which is very much more of a blue-green, a very spruce green sort of color. And added that to deepen it as well. And then I also wiped off this whole tree with my microfiber cloth just to make sure that those red embossal stars really pop. And then to assemble this, like I said, I will show the proper assembly with the next card. But you just fold everything along the score lines. And then you decide which side you want the pull tab to be, because the beauty of this is you can have it on the right or the left. So you can have it right facing or left facing, depending on who you're sending it to, or you can have it left facing if you're putting it inside a card. Waffle Flower has videos on that so that when you open the card, the tree pops up, which is super cool. I didn't do that for these ones, but you just fold along everything. And then because I'm doing my tabs on the pull tab on the right, you apply adhesive as I'm going to show here in the video. So first I use the little circle die and I die cut it from red cardstock. And you just adhere that behind the end of the pull tab because there's a tiny little arrow that it die cuts as well. So you can back that with any color cardstock you want and it just kind of emphasizes that little arrow. You could also stamp the word pull, like there's that little Lawn Fawn interactive set that I like to use. And again, since I'm doing this on the right side, you just cut off that little tab on the right. And then for the adhesive, you apply it. There's basically 3 parts on each side. It's kind of the easiest way to explain it. There's the very outer tab, or the outer pieces. Then there's that inner kind of triangle. And then there's the main body of the tree. So all you want to do is apply adhesive to the left outermost tabs here. So I applied adhesive to those, as well as to that little little rectangle tab sticking out, but I forgot to do that right at this moment. Like I said, I don't know, my brain was somewhere else when I was making this one. But the funny thing is even if you do it wrong, it still works. It just doesn't work quite the same. So, and then you apply adhesive to the bottom portion of the outermost right tab. So I've got all my adhesive onto that, totally assembled it wrong because my brain was whatever, and then adhered this to my card base. So it still works. It still pops up. So success. It just didn't pop the way it's supposed to because Amy did it wrong. So still works though. I was just doing my thing. I didn't even realize until I make the last card. I was like, oh, why was I having so much trouble? This is so easy. So I've got all my little characters. Like I said, I was inspired by Shannon's. She did this adorable birthday card using this, which I'm going to show because I kind of recreated a similar one. So I've got all my little people here that I had die cut, and I am just assembling them, popping out from behind the Christmas tree. And I had stamped and heat embossed the little Santa hat image that I used on the first cards with the bear. So I used that Santa image from that set and stamped it multiple times, watercolored it, die cut it, and then added it to all these little characters. They're wearing the Santa hats. And then the Merry Christmas is from that holiday thanks set at the beginning as well. And I just heat embossed that onto a strip of red cardstock and added that to my card. And then to finish the inside of the card, I'm just using that Christmas tree set again and decided to stamp. These stamps are actually meant to go on the pull tab tree die cut as well, so you can just have it quickly and easily embellished if you want. But since I didn't use them for that, I thought I would just stamp on the inside because it was kind of cute. So I stamped those with the exact same Distress Oxide inks I was using on the front, so the mowed lawn, the pine needles, and the scattered straw. So that was the Christmas theme of this card. And you can see it lays perfectly flat for mailing, but then when you pull the tab out, it pops up the tree and makes it all three-dimensional, which is so much fun. And then this is the birthday version of this. I thought this was brilliant. I saw Shannon's card and my jaw dropped and I was like, I never would have thought of making that into a party hat. So one of my kids brought home one of those little glitter pom-poms and I was like, perfect. I'm going to make this card. So super cute. All the same supplies, just I used some pattern paper in different colors. So I love that option. And the link to Shannon's blog post in my blog post, she also did candy corn with it. It's brilliant. It made me so happy. So those were cards 3 and 4. For my final card, I'm using the pull tab tree again. This time I'm using it with the pop-up add-on. And all you do is you have your pull tab tree base, and then you add this little triangle piece, which is a very weird looking little piece, but it fits right in there. So I've just got all this in place on some green cardstock. So I've got my pull tab tree, and that's inner triangle piece. All it does is cut these funny little holes into the base of the tree die. So that's all done. For the actual bows of the tree, there's all these, again, funny shaped dies that just look weird. All you do is run these through with either green cardstock, whatever floats your boat. You use green cardstock. I use glitter cardstock. Pattern paper would work great. So you die cut all of these pieces once, except for these 2 outer portions that I'm pointing at. Those you die cut twice. So in the end, you have 10 pieces. And they're really easy. Once you actually die cut them and see the sizes, they're super easy. Like I've just laid them out exactly how they're going to go onto this tree piece. This was one of those ones that, again, I looked at the die set when I got it and I was like, this looks difficult. But then once you actually die cut it and look at it, it's like I didn't even really need Nina's video at this point to put it together. She thought this out very, very well. It all came together so easily. So for my base, I am folding everything first just to have that all done. And then all of these little funny pieces, that little top part, there are score lines that are impressed when you die cut. You just can't see it because of the glitter cardstock. But you just fold in those little tabs and then you just insert those into the little holes. And because I've lined everything up, it basically goes from largest to smallest. You just start at the bottom and you pop them into their corresponding little holes. And then once you popped it through and you unfold the tabs, they're secure. Like I was thinking I'm going to have to glue these down. This is going to take a while, but they're supposed to be loose. That's kind of the beauty of it, you know? And because of the way those little upper tab parts are, it just holds everything in place, and yet they can kind of wiggle and slide around and they still stay. So this was so fun. Like once it started coming together, I was like, okay, this is fun. I could do a bunch of these. So I just start, again, at the bottom and just kind of work my way up, inserting all of these little pieces into their corresponding holes. So you get to the, you have 9 of them. There's 9 holes in that little die. So you've got all 9 pieces, and then you have that top piece that doesn't have the little foldable tabs. It just has a little straight tab. And once you have all of these ones inserted, all you do is you take that top one and you fold it over the top. So that covers kind of everything. That is the only one you actually adhere. So I've got everything in place. I use liquid adhesive, but it probably would have been just faster to use my score tape. But I just folded over that little tab, like held it in place, folded it over, flipped this over, and then I just used my craft tacky glue, which, you know, is just as strong. It just would have been faster to use score tape. So I adhered that, and then I had die cut the star from the pull tab tree set from some gold glitter cardstock. And again, adding some adhesive to the little bottom portion of that, and I'm just going to adhere that into place. And while I'm letting that glue dry, I just piled acrylic blocks on top of it just to hold it in place while it dried. So there I've got my little like tree going on here. So again, I want my pull tab to come out on the right. So I'm going to trim off this little rectangular piece on the right, and my actual pull tab is white cardstock again, but you can make it any color you want. Like you could make it green, you could do it black, like whatever, but just have it for me. I just die cut mine from white cardstock. And then this little triangle tab or accordion piece as well, I die cut from the green, but you're not ever going to see it, so you can do whatever you want. So the adhesive is all on that left side. And then you adhere the accordion little piece to that remaining triangle tab. So I've just kind of got it going there. And then I die cut again red cardstock with that little circle die and backed the end of the pull tab with that, just to bring, like, that would be a little more noticeable, I thought, with the green tree, so that little dash of red. And then that pull tab gets inserted into this little accordion piece. So you can see I have the accordion piece kind of folded towards me, and then I put adhesive on that little end tab. I also put adhesive on the little foldable end of the white cardstock pull tab, and it inserts into the hole right there. So again, once you do this once you see the logistics of it and you actually put it together, it makes perfect sense. But the first time you do it, it's like, I struggled kind of wrapping my head around it. And then it was like, oh, I get it. So I insert that little folded end and I adhere it to that little accordion piece, just like so. And then I fold down that, what is the left-hand side of the tree. So I have that all facing me. And I peel off the backing from the accordion piece and from that top portion of the back of the tree. And then I fold this closed. And you can see now it's all that, all the mess of kind of the back is hidden. And it's all adhered. The only adhesive that's going to hold this to my card base is along the bottom there. And I'll get to that in a second. I kept this card really, really simple because I just basically wanted to show how this came together. So I just heat embossed with that same carnation embossing powder, the Merry Christmas sentiment from the Christmas tree set. I heat emboss that on a white card base. And then all you do is peel off the adhesive off that bottom portion, just like so. And then I'm just going to pop this into place, and that's it. It's done. Like the pull tab, and the minute you pull on it, it pops it all out. And there's a little slit in the pull tab that you can kind of press down, and it will make, you can see there how I pulled it too far. But if you pull it and then allow that to go down, it can like kind of lock into place, which is also really cool. So that's all it's super simple to put together. Like I said, I'll have a link to Nina's video also explaining it that doesn't have, me talking for half an hour. So that was it. This was so much fun to make. The glitter is just fun. And then I was like, oh, I want to do more of these and like adhere jewels to all of these little bows, like as if they're Christmas ornaments. Like you could just take this to so many like different levels. It's so fun. And I love how it goes completely flat to make it easy to mail. But then you pull the tab and it pops out and it's like so much fun. So as always, there'll be links below the video to my blog post with links to all the supplies used. This is actually part of a blog hop for the Waffle Flower November release. So I will have info as well as the link to Shannon's blog and all the other blog hoppers. I'll have all that info in my blog post linked directly below this video along with all the supplies. So you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!